Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus, lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello, and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch, and this is episode 112. I've taken a little bit of a break from podcasting, but today I am back with a bang. In today's episode, we will explore the life and legacy of one of the most iconic figures in the world of modeling and one of the original supermodels of the 1970s and 1980s, Kim Alexis. With her striking blue eyes, her wholesome beauty, and her magnetic presence, Kim graced the covers of over 500 magazines and became a household name during fashion's golden era. Join us as we dive into her rise to fame, her influence on beauty standards, and the enduring mark she left on the modeling agency, as well as her transition into broadcasting, appearing in various TV shows and movies, becoming an author, as well as giving back to her community. Today, she continues to evolve and empower other women to believe that true beauty and health come from within. A great conversation that I know you'll enjoy. Here we go. Hi, Kim. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you online.
Yeah, finally. So for my listeners, I am speaking with, I am welcoming, and I am honored to welcome an icon, a trailblazer, and someone whose name is synonymous with grace, strength, and timeless beauty, Kim Alexis. Now, for those of you might need a refresher, Kim burst onto the scene in the late 1970s and quickly rose to international fame as one of the original supermodels. She's graced the covers of more than 500 magazines, including Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Sports Illustrated, and has become a household name thanks to her distinctive look and down-to-earth presence in an era that was just beginning to define the concept of supermodel. But Kim's story goes far beyond the runway. After achieving incredible success in fashion, she carved out a second act as a television personality, an author, and a wellness advocate. She used her platform to inspire others through her dedication to health, fitness, and faith. Whether she's speaking on camera or connecting one-on-one, Kim brings a refreshing authenticity that continues to resonate with fans of all generations. Now, in today's conversation, we'll explore her journey from Buffalo, New York, to the heights of the fashion world, the personal values that have guided her throughout her career, and how she's continued to evolve and empower others along the way. So again, Kim, welcome on board.
Oh, no, you do just as much.
So I always like to start with my guests from the very beginning. So you're from Buffalo. So let's just talk about your childhood and how that looked.
Yeah, for me, it was a little town outside of Buffalo called Lockport, and it's where the Erie Canal had the locks. So very small, very sheltered. I have one younger sister and I have two great parents. They're both still alive. And they thought for some reason, I don't know where they got it from, that I should be a swimmer. So when I was 6 and my sister was 4, we started swimming at the YMCA and competing. And I realized at a young age, and my parents would come on weekends for the tournaments and the swim meets, and both of them volunteer, so it became a family affair. And I had such support, and I'm such a competitor that, and I realized I loved athletics. So that really carved a lot of my career as far as being able to just stay with something and not give up. And you might be behind, but you might have some added strength to kick in at the finish line. And so those things are important in life. I also loved studying. I was a great student. And so I was always taking extra courses and bringing home extra homework. And I was in the band, so I played an instrument. That was good for me as I developed and grew up. It's good for mathematics. So I just enjoyed being very busy and doing a lot of things, and then was discovered pretty much at 17 when I was in my senior year in high school. So that
Wow.
started a whole new journey. I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist, so I was already enrolled in college at the University of Rhode Island and was on their swim team and thought I was going to go off in this one direction. And life presented something else, and I jumped on it.
That's awesome. So, what was it like? I mean, when you were discovered, and then here you are in high school, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh my God, you're getting whisked away to all these places around the world. I mean, how was that at such a young age?
Well, I finished high school at 17. My birthday's in the summer, so I waited till I turned 18, and then I went right to New York City. But 2 days after that, I was in Rome and Paris for the collections for Italian Bazaar. So I remember just being so green and not understanding and knowing anything, and finding very kind people in the business. And I'd be like, what is it? What does they mean by that? Or what is And even in Rome, we would be working, around the streets and jumping in taxis. And I remember going by the Colosseum and thinking, wait, wait, stop the car. Like, this is my history book. And I realized that they were used to it and that I would have to come back when I wasn't working. And it took me like 30 years before I could go back and see the Colosseum and walk through it.
That's really just incredible. I'm a flight attendant by trade, and I mainly fly Europe. So I might be overseas 2 or 3 times in one week, in like 9 days or so, and I still am in awe when I go to Rome or when I go to Paris and I see the Eiffel Tower at night sparkling, and I'm like, it just never gets old, right?
Yeah.
Sitting in a little cafe and drinking coffee and just people watching and stuff. It's just like, I think I've been a flight attendant for 39 years. And I think that's why I still love it so much, because of all that, just amazing, things that be happening. So exactly, how long did you start to model before all this supermodel stardom started?
I think that term, I'm not sure exactly what year it was coined, but I started in 78, and I would say that I was probably about 4 years or so into my career. So maybe like 83, 84. And I remember I was like, heard someone say something. I'm like, what's a supermodel? And someone said, you are, my dear. And I said, oh, okay. So we really didn't know what the term was. I was just working all the time. I kept my head down. I had 14 job offers every single day, so I could pick and choose what I wanted. I
Wow.
had my first national ad for a makeup company within my first 3 months. I had a cover of Italian Bazaar in the first 4 days of working. I had my first American cover right away, and that takes 3 months to come out. So December of 78 was my first glamour cover. And I think that God knew that I needed to be busy and working and successful, because I would have been out of there and in a different direction.
Right, right. And so not only you encompassed that, adjective attached to your name, supermodel, but there was like a handful of you who, all of a sudden now you're grouped together as this, amazing group of supermodels. I mean, were you friends with the other girls, and did you
Yes.
travel all together?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our work was by ourselves. So it wasn't often that we worked with two or three or a group of girls. So when we did get together, that was really great to have a day where you were with other people. But a lot of my days, because I was self-employed, was a different location, different people, different photographers. Everything was different every single day. So you never knew where you were going to be, how the day was going to go. And so when you did find those friends and people that knew you when you first started, they were and still are very important. So yes, I keep in touch with a bunch of them.
Oh, that's great. So walk us through like a casting call. I think that's because a lot of times you'll see stuff online, especially with TikTok and Instagram. And I follow some of these young guys who are models now who are becoming very successful, and they're always going to the casting calls, and the lines are wrapping around the block, and you're thinking, oh my gosh. So what was that like?
Well, first of all, back then they were called go-sees because you would go and they would see you. So they were not called casting calls until I was out of the business already. But basically, it was your agent calling and saying, here's the address, this is the studio name, go see this person, whether it was the photographer or whether it was the editor from some magazine. Sometimes they were not working, so the studio was quiet. Sometimes the photographer was on set with another girl and she's all made up and beautiful, and you walk in sweaty because it's summer and you're just happy to get to the address and trying to look pretty and hand them your little book as you're trying to get more pages in your book. And I remember feeling so intimidated because I'm like, they're working and I'm trying to get work. But that changed very quickly for me. And then I would be the one on set and watching these new young girls come in. And what was interesting for me about casting calls or go-sees back in the day was that many a time when the photographer or editor was nice and they sat there and chatted with you, I think they felt bad because they knew they didn't want you. It was the ones that barely looked at you in the face and they're looking at your book and they're like, yeah, right, okay. And they kind of hand your book while they're looking down and you're like, oh, crud, I failed that. And that's the one they already knew. It's like, I already knew I was going to book her and I don't need to see anything more. It was very interesting. So sometimes from meetings, you have no idea what somebody's really thinking, right? So you have to not be discouraged with feedback because feedback doesn't necessarily mean what's going to happen. I don't know. I just found that interesting.
That is interesting because I would think going in, you're looking at someone just to get some type of reaction, like
Yeah.
good, bad, indifferent. And a lot
Yeah.
of times when they are indifferent, or like, for example, I compete in bodybuilding shows. And so when I'm out on stage, there's been times where the judges look at me and then they look down, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm going through my routine and I'm like smiling and I'm like, they're not even looking at me. I mean,
Yeah.
and then I walk off thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to place in the top five just because of that. They're not interested. So I totally understand that concept. And some
Yeah.
I'm surprised because you would get a call back, but so you're exactly right. What was the typical day as far as hours? 8 hours, 12 hours? Were you working in the middle of the night sometime? I mean, depending on what your product or whatever.
Yeah, it was more commercials that might run 15, 16 hours, but most photography work was an 8 hour day. But I could do sometimes three, and I did three different magazine covers in one day because you can do a magazine cover in 4 hours. So I'd work 9 to 1, 1 to 5, and 5 to 9. And they would take my makeup off each time in the middle. The makeup artist didn't want the next makeup artist using their stuff or understanding their little secrets. And so you're always washing your face and um it was crazy, but I could do three covers in one day.
That's amazing. I mean, even to hear about that, how mind-boggling is that to do three covers in one day? What was it
Yeah.
like?
Well, and it was right here that would hurt the most. It seemed like they were always using brushes in the corner of your eye here, so it would get really tender sometimes because they were always putting so much makeup on. So that was my little whiny. My face hurts.
What
But
was
I would sometimes after a day of work, I would jump on a plane and I lived in Florida, North Florida in Jacksonville. So it was hard to get from New York City to Jacksonville. A lot of my work I started doing, I already had a son and sometimes I'd bring him, sometimes I wouldn't. And so for me, I would go into the airplane bathroom and wash my face with that soap just to get the makeup
Oh
off.
no. Oh wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Funny you say that because today, I mean, with me mainly flying Europe, I would never do this, but I get it though. Women will come on the plane and they're like in sweats, which is okay, but they're all in business class. And then they're literally going into the bathroom and they're coming out and then they're putting on these like, face masks on their face or their red light. I mean, I had
Oh,
to ask one gal, I just said, I hate to ask you this, but that light is shining throughout the entire cabin and it's 11 p.m. and people want to sleep. So, could you kind of hurry up the process or unplug it? But it's crazy how our rituals have changed over the years, all right?
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
How old were you when you got your first cover?
I was 18.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I
That
had a couple covers right away. I mean, because I was started working right as I turned 18. So when you shoot a cover, it takes 3 months before they publish. And so I would shoot them right away when I started in July, and I'd have the covers by November, December.
Wow.
Yeah.
So back then, and it's kind of funny because I remember back then in the 70s, I was a major athlete in school and I'm 5'9" now, but I shrunk an inch. I was 5'10" in school and
Okay, that's me.
I weighed 100 pounds.
Oh, that was not me.
And in today's, society, I would be anorexic and people would be like scared and worried about me. But back then I ran track and I ran cross country and I only had ate 3 meals a day and didn't know anything about nutrition.
Yes.
I would cry to my mother and cry because I was so skinny. I was literally a stick figure. And I would never wear dresses to school. I always wore pants. But nutrition back then, we were all eating, Spam and,
Diet Pepsi or something.
Tab and,
Yes, Tab. Yeah.
Post ding dongs and Entenmann donuts and
No, I didn't eat, I didn't eat those.
and the pink
You
coconut.
just had a good metabolism.
Well,
I,
that's exactly what it was.
yeah.
When I went to college, I started putting on weight, and now I'm like in my mid 30s. But I look back at these pictures. So, what was it like for you? Because back then there was really no such thing as diet and macros and protein and whatever. How was your diet, and how did you?
Okay, well, when I was discovered, I was a New York State swim champ. So we were ranked number 1 in one of the relays, and I was number 9 in back and fly. So I was doing butterfly. And so I had these huge, big
Wow.
lats in the back and swimming 5.5 hours a day. And I get discovered in March of my senior year. And the agent said, you need to lose 15 pounds. I was 145 of solid muscle. And so for me to go from 145 to 130 was near impossible. So I couldn't hold it. I tried. I think I ate plain tuna fish with no mayonnaise or anything and grapefruit for like weeks and weeks and weeks. It's terrible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so, but with you working throughout the day and you had these 8, 10, 12, 16-hour days, what was your diet like when you were on set?
Well, part of it, and I didn't do a lot of preparing at home. And as I said, you never knew each day what you were going to get. Some had beautiful, wonderful meals. Others were like, oh, I should have brought something, packed something myself because you would starve. There was no meal, or they didn't have a budget, or it was something that you weren't going to eat. So I learned that you kind of had to roll the punches. And I still really didn't because we didn't have the education. So I tried to do the Atkins diet, but I was not good with all that protein. And oh, if you're hungry, have a piece of bacon. I'm like, oh, it's gross to me. All I wanted was like an apple. So I had a hard time with that. I really did struggle. There were even times, and I tell a story about going on set for Vogue and working with Irving Penn, who was a wonderful, kind older gentleman. And he did the most beautiful photographs. But I decided that day that I was fat. And so I decided not to eat. And they broke for lunch. I just stood there. My hair, my makeup, everything was ready to go. And I stood there till everyone was done. And then they dressed me, put me on set. He looks through his camera. He looks up at me, looks back down because he had the Hasselblad, which is the smaller camera. And he looks up and he looks at the editor and he says, she has no life in her eyes. Get off set. And I never worked with him again because I was so hungry. When you're like hungry and you have the dull eye,
Right.
I didn't have
Right.
that spark. I had no energy. And so I learned, okay, well, that doesn't work either. So how do I figure out how to eat healthy and maintain my energy? And so that was a whole rabbit hole of going down and learning nutrition and what worked for me and my body and how long to work out after babies and traveling and everything. So that changes, and I really do tune in and listen to what I myself need.
Especially back then in the 70s, because I remember in high school lifting weights, girls didn't lift weights. I mean, there'd be a weight room for the boys and the football team and all the basketball and baseball teams. And I would always walk by the weight room and go, I would love to go in there, but oh my God, I wouldn't dare.
Yeah, we had to for swimming, so our swim team was in there. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm envious of that because I never did. And we just ran and ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. And luckily, I had good genetics and I was a good runner, like state champion. And our school was state champion every year. And I went to college on a track scholarship. So, anyway, it's interesting to, see that kind of thing. What was some of your biggest challenges that you faced at that early age when you were traveling and on set? I mean, as far as the photographers, I'm sure you probably ended up having your favorites versus like, oh my gosh, I have to work with him again or her again.
Yeah. Most of them, and I had where I could pick and choose jobs. So I could pick and choose whether I wanted to work with a certain magazine or a certain photographer. I was very, very lucky. So no the big challenges probably were figuring out what men were thinking because I grew up with one sister. And so there were times where guys were creepy and doing creepy things, and I would leave. I would just walk out of the studio and leave. I'm like, I'm not putting up with that. And I don't know where I got that from. I didn't grow up with my mom saying, okay, if you're in this situation, this guy says this means this, and you do this.
Right.
You can't prepare your kids for certain things, but there were times I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't sound like a good idea. And if they keep pushing, I'm like, done. You know what? If this is if this is me leaving the business, so be it. I would just go back and figure something else out. So it's always good to not be desperate. When you're desperate, you make sometimes poor decisions. And I just felt confident that I could do anything I put my mind to. And if it was not modeling, I would find something else.
Right. Did you ever feel that you had to prove yourself at that point, or were you that confident at that point of your life that you would, walk into a casting or into a job and like, I'm here?
I don't think necessarily, I'm kind of in the middle of that. I just was very blessed with so much work right away. But I do remember going once to a casting call, and I must have been in a bright orange jacket. And someone said, "Are you here for a pickup?" Which is what the messengers wear with the bikes, right? When they
Right,
bike
right,
through New
right.
York City. And I'm like, "No, I'm here for a go see. Here's my book."
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm like, how could you like mistake me for a messenger? So sometimes it's good to have your ego knocked down. But I would be on 8 covers of magazines in 1 month. And to me, I would be in the grocery store and I'd be looking at the checkout, as you're by the checkout, my face, my face, my face, my face, my face. And what I would do is say, oh, that's the shot they chose for that. Or, oh, interesting. Look what they did with my hair. I thought that earring was going to be. So I would analyze things more than, oh, I made it to the top. It was more, how do I better myself? What are they looking for? How can I help that process?
Right. And when you were at that point in your career, and then all these other young gals were coming up, did you find yourself mentoring anyone or trying to be some type of role model to the younger gals coming on scene?
Always. And if anyone needed help, I was there because I knew what it was like when I first started. So, a quick story with Bobby Brown, the makeup artist that has her own label. She was first starting in the business and she got to work on me, and I must have already had a name. And somehow she was so nervous working and putting makeup on my face that she messed up and she had to wash my face. And she said to me 40 years later, she's like, you were so nice to me. If you hadn't been nice, I would not have stayed in the business. And so I was like, oh, I don't remember that, but I'm glad. It really does make a difference just helping someone along, giving them a smile. I had people mentoring me, as I said, when I first started. I just ran into Jack Scalia, who was a male model, and I just saw him this past weekend. We both were at a golf charity event. And I was like, yeah, I said to my husband, I said, he was there when I first started and I didn't know anything. He told me where to go and what to do. And so that's important. So for people listening, if you're older, please feed into the younger kids. They really need it.
That's great advice. Great advice. What do you consider some of your greatest professional accomplishments in modeling?
Professional, uh, I loved being on Vogue. So for me, I did a lot of other magazine covers. It took me a full year, which may seem not a lot, but I mean, I was working a lot. And so for me to be on a Vogue cover was it. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, great. And then I'd be on like sometimes three in a row, October, November, December. It was just amazing. So that was important to me. And then when I left the business or kind of transitioned, well, first of all, I had a makeup contract with Ultima 2 Revlon. And so that was a big deal. And then I transitioned into broadcasting and I was the fashion editor for 3 years on Good Morning America Weekly. So I just posted something on social media of an old clip.
Saw that with you and Joan London, and I'm like, oh my God, that is so great.
I don't even talk the same way anymore. I'm like that. I said to my husband, this is like a different person when I was like 27 or 28. So yeah, it's interesting to look back and see there, at least with my business, we could see how we progressed because you have all the as a record. So I have boxes and boxes and boxes of photographs to be able to say, see, I worked a lot.
Right. That's awesome. And so how long was your career technically, like as far as years wise? How long
So
did you
yeah, when I got my Ultima 2 contract with Revlon, that was probably I was 23. So I started at 18. By 23, I had my contract, and then Revlon was bought out when I was about 26. So they went in a different direction and didn't renew my contract. So at 26, now here I was at the top of my field with my own makeup contract. And so now it was hard to go back to the catalogs and all the other things I was doing. And so my whole career transitioned. People are like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. You're like this mega star. Why are you doing a catalog for Sears or whatever?
Right, right.
So I had to learn at a young age how to brand myself and what to take and how to transition. So I just walked into the broadcasting and started doing different shows and hosting shows, and because the modeling kind of just dried up. They didn't want me there.
Right, right. Fast forwarding to now, and we'll get back to then, but are you doing any modeling now?
No, and I don't even have an agent.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, the agencies collect the older girls, call us legends, and then never get us work. But the younger girls will go with an agency because they're like, oh, well, Kim's at that agency. It must be good. So I don't need to be up on a board. And if they're not getting me work because they don't like the social media numbers versus what your book looks like and your past history looks like, to me, that's stupid.
No, I agree with that. I think you're exactly right about as far as how many followers you have. It's not about quantity, it's about quality for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's
Um,
gone out the window.
so you got into broadcasting, and I saw that you did a bunch of stuff. You were a lot of TV
Yes. Yeah,
and
I enjoy.
and
I
movies too.
enjoy. Yes, but I enjoy it much better. I liked being able to speak. I am a natural born teacher, so I like the idea of, as I was talking about earlier, feeding into other people. I learned so much, and I had so many different opportunities and things that happened, good and bad to me, that I use those to help other people.
Right, right. And so let's talk about now today. I feel very fortunate. I live here in Scottsdale. You also live here in Arizona, so you're just up the road from me. So we're enjoying this actually really nice weather the last couple of days, right? It's
I
been
I
amazing.
I know it.
It's been so nice. But today, with you not modeling now, talk about today and what keeps you busy.
Well, I am a national wellness ambassador for the Trilogy by Shea Holmes group. And Shea Holmes is a big construction company. And their trilogy division is for active adults. And so people move into these communities where maybe they're retired, they want to slow down a bit, and they want to be socially active and physically active and eating well. And so we've got restaurants and golf courses and beautiful facilities and spas for them to be able to work out and enjoy life in a community. And so I help develop programs for that. And the other part of it would be speaking or doing social media. So I'm due to do a couple of videos. And some days I don't wear makeup, but now I have makeup on today. So I'm like, I'm going to do a couple of videos after this just to get some down
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, give them to my people.
So technically what you're looking at today, your platform might be more into the wellness.
Yes, it's clean living. I think with my interest in pharmacy. And the whole idea of pharmacy to me is cause and effect. Take this, this happens. And so I transitioned like, okay, well, knowing the marketing business and knowing how they would take a product and what they would do to try and market it to make it appealing for somebody to buy. But what does that product do to your health? And so I became a really big diver in of, I know that they say that it's going to get wrinkles out, or it's going to make my house smell better, or it's going to slow my life down, or whatever it is. But what's that going to do to my health long term? And so I started doing posts on things like that. Did you know that if you use dryer sheets, or if you're doing this, or if you're cleaning your house with this, or that all those toxins add up. And as I got older and things started to break apart, I mean, I've never really had surgeries or knee replacements or anything, but I have a bum knee and I ran marathons for years and I ran from the age of 20. Once I transitioned out of swimming, I went into running. And now I really can't run anymore. So it's figuring out what else works and how to stay active and busy. And um, so that just that whole, as you would know, just that changing as we age and what works and what doesn't.
Right. So take us through a typical day of a Mike. Is you go like do you go to a gym? Do you,
I do go to a gym, yes. I
okay.
go to a mountainside.
Oh
So
yeah,
we,
me too.
yeah, yeah. Yep. So I've had to learn to go on the rowing machine, the elliptical, whatever it is, stair stepper, spin class. I've started taking a bunch of classes. And because I'm the wellness ambassador for Trilogy, I'm also becoming certified as a group fitness instructor. So all I've got left is my final exam, and then I'll be ready for that. I'm a real estate agent, so I got my license just to get it. So I understood the business. And then my last degree will be in ministry. So I want to get a ministry degree.
Oh, that's just amazing. What a well-rounded life that you have. That's fantastic. That's really, really great. I think for me, one of my biggest proponents for women today is muscle. And, to me, muscle is the key to longevity. And with you, going into the gym and lifting weights, I'm really trying to make more women aware of how important lifting
Yeah.
weights really, really is. It's not only beneficial, for your overall health, but for your bones,
Bones. Yep.
especially, all the statistics of women or people in general over 60 who fall, 50% of them pass away within a year just because of due to complications. And it's not necessarily of the fall, but it's just because of weak bones and being in a hospital and turning into pneumonia and, whatever else. So
Yeah. Well, and there was something even on Instagram, and not all this. I got to look it up, but they said if your leg muscles are strong, your cognitive ability stays better. That you can, the leg strength was very important. I'm like, I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to go do a couple more lunges.
well, it is because a lot of times we take for granted. I mean, getting in and out of a car, dropping something on the floor and picking it up, going up and down stairs. As a
Yeah.
flight attendant, I see so many, and I always laugh at myself. And I'll have to ask you this next question about old people. I'm like, I saw this old person. I'm like, wait a minute, they're probably like my age. I mean, but having to be helped on the plane, and they pull out their gallon baggie full of pills, and
I don't want that.
I don't want that either. I
No,
don't
I don't
end
want
up in
that.
a walker or a wheelchair. I mean, it's like should have, would have, could have, and. Which brings me to the term, what's your thought on, quote unquote being a senior citizen. I always chuckle. I hear that.
I know we don't look like senior citizens. I'm going to be 65 in July, and I don't want to be thought of as retired. I don't ever want to retire. I want to be out there and I want to be useful and I want to be helping, whether it's working myself or in volunteering. I do a ton of charity work. So staying active, being busy, being social, being moving, using your muscle strength, as you said. I love going to the gym and going over where all the dumbbells are with all the guys.
Mhm.
And it's funny, do they come around you like when you be by yourself, just kind of lifting weights and stuff, and all of a sudden there's like all these guys around? And I have three sons, so I love it. I mean, they're all younger guys like my son's age. And so I'm like, this is just great. I just love being like the mom of all these guys. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, and also too, because I've gotten my personal training certification, and I'll be in the gym watching people, and I see some of these people, and men especially, and their form is so bad.
Yeah, and they're like
And I'm
pushing,
like,
and
oh my gosh.
they're
I
going
mean,
to hurt something,
I
right?
thought I can't go over and say anything. They'll either cuss me out or blow me off or whatever. But I'm just like, if you just did that
Yeah.
right, just tweak it a little. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some girl, I'll walk up to a girl. So sometimes they're doing like dead deadlifts, right? And I'm like, and why are you working on those? Like, don't you find that that's tweaking your back or, and they're like, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, just wait till you're my age. So there's certain things I can't do anymore, even some of the stuff for my arms because of my neck. And I just wake up with such pain in my neck, it causes a migraine. And so each one of us has our own little tweaks and things we have to adjust to. But yeah, you got to work out and have good form. Yeah, for sure.
When is your birthday? July what?
15.
Oh, I'm July 18.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'll be 68. Uh,
Okay, so I'm going to be three.
yeah.
I'm going to be. I am 3 years younger than you.
I do chuckle though because I go to a fascia specialist here who I just absolutely love, and
Oh,
he has a couple of offices, and one is up at the JCC at the Jewish Community Center.
oh, I
And
love that.
I'll pull into the parking lot, and it'll say senior parking, and I'm like, I pull right in, and I'm like, I don't feel bad about that, and I'm just
You're
like.
too hot to be a senior.
And I just walk right in. And during
Just
COVID,
dress.
they would have like senior hours at Costco or at Trader Joe's. And I would always make sure I had my ID out because they would stop me and say, this is for senior citizens. I go, I am a senior citizen.
Yeah, I know, but you don't look it.
I do chuckle about that. Talk about your food and I know we're all eating healthy, but like give us a day of like eating, like a normal day of eating.
You keep asking for what's a typical day and a normal day. First of all, for me, nothing's typical and nothing's normal. I think when you are self-employed, you
Oh,
have to learn to go, kind of roll with the punches every single day. So I never have a typical day, and I like to change it up a lot. But I really, really, really love ground turkey. I love and always keep a big thing of those big things of greens, whether it's the super greens or whatever it is, so that I've got that. Sometimes I make fruit shakes and I put a ton of greens in there. Sometimes I'm on a kale kick and I make sure I massage it and add a bunch of really good olive oil in there and really good sea salt. And so I'm a big believer in good sea salt. I stock my pantry with things that I can't cheat on, except for chocolate chips. So I have really good chocolate chips. And I have sourdough starter, and so that thing is constantly blowing up and needing to be fed and used. And so my husband will say, why are you making more bread? Or why did you make me more muffins? I'm like, listen, there's healthy bacteria in there. They're good for you. And I got to use my sourdough starter.
right, right.
So for me, it's getting a salad in every day. It's trying to put as many vegetables as possible on things. I am a big believer in substitution. So I wrote a book called Cheat Eat. It's on my website, and it's how to just take a recipe, and I constantly change recipes. I can't follow one recipe exactly. So I'm constantly like, don't have that, but this would work. So I'll just throw that in there. So whether it's flour or the different types of sugar I use or the different healthy fats, just a big believer in substituting and finding the better thing and putting it in your product and making your own.
I agree. I'm a dark chocolate junkie, and so I cannot keep too much. I have like a little, I'll bring back bars from overseas,
Oh, yeah, that's probably better.
percent or higher cacao, and then all I need is one little square. That's all I need, you know.
Yeah.
So if I'll eat ice cream, cake, I'll eat it all, but I just thought I can't bring that into the house because if I know it's here, and Twizzlers are like one of my biggest downfalls. I love strawberry Twizzlers, and so I'm like, I can't. I'll eat the whole bag. So I'm like,
Don't you think there's food dye in there?
yes,
Unless they use beet
absolutely,
powder, right?
absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely. How did you meet your husband?
oh, it's a long story, but basically through friends. I was living in Boulder at the time, and he had friends that lived in Boulder, and he came up to visit, and that's how we kind of got together.
Oh,
But it's a long, great story. It's a great love story.
how many kids do you have?
I have three sons,
Okay.
39, 36 next week, and 31. And the 31-year-old's having a baby, so I'm doing the baby shower this weekend. They're due at the end of June, and I'm going to be a grandma for the first time.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Suggestions or for beauty tips for older women. I mean, did you learn some really great beauty tips in your career?
I learned how to put on makeup correctly and what worked for me. And what I found, and remind me to go back to skincare, but what I found was that many things worked on me. So as you see older women, a lot of times they're set in their ways and they only do one makeup and one color lipstick and one, and I'm constantly changing that up too. I don't have a set routine for all that. So I'm trying different products and constantly just sometimes I wear eyeliner. Today I don't have eyeliner on. So I just like the change. As far as skincare, I've tried a ton of things, and most of them, especially from dermatologists, are so toxic. And I don't want the toxins. So I try to find really clean companies. Credo.com has a bunch of good offerings on it. There's the apps that you can use that can kind of scan what
Mhm.
product it is and tell you how bad or good something is. So I'm a really big believer in that. And some are not good, but I'm just always trying, constantly trying different things. And I get a lot of emails from companies that are like, hey, will you try this? And I'm like, as long as I don't have to collaborate, because I'm not a collaborator. I don't want to spread myself thin, getting $10 here for a lip pencil and
Right.
$50 here for a make. I want the big contract.
Yep. No,
So
I agree.
I'm not gonna do that. So everything I post, I use I never get any money for it. It's just me looking to help, or did you know, or have you discovered, or have you thought about this? And I don't get any money or kickbacks from anybody.
That's great. What are some of your favorite hobbies and interests?
Funny, as I moved to Arizona, I learned to love to paint rocks. So I used to paint and sketch and loved art. I was big into music when I was in school, but then really never picked it up once I graduated. But we have a lot of color in our backyard. It's beautiful, and I painted our whole house, so you can't see because I got it on blur. But we have 12-foot ceilings, and I painted the whole inside of our house, and
Oh,
so
wow.
I guess it would be painting. I have a workbench outside. It's perfect weather right now to go out on the workbench and just go paint something. So
Well,
I like
it
creative.
sounds like this next question. What is your favorite way to relax and unwind? So it sounds like painting is what was one of your go-tos to do that.
Yes, and also writing. I guess I journal, and I'm a big believer in studying the Bible, so I do that. I also like to play games or puzzles because it keeps my mind sharp. So I do that. And I love to read books. Every night I've got a book in my hand unless I'm exhausted and read for a couple minutes before I go to bed.
And what about traveling? Do you enjoy traveling?
Yes, I love traveling. I think because of my lifestyle over the years, if I stay in one spot too long, I get antsy. And I don't know about you, but I get antsy. I gotta go. I gotta discover. So the whole summer for us is a lot of charity celebrity golf tournaments where we help raise money for other people. And I get to get out and see other people and socialize and all our different friends we've picked up along the way in all these different tournaments. And so, and it helps the charities, whether they're local or national. So that's a big, something I really love giving back.
What are some of your favorite traveling spots that you've been to?
I loved Africa. To me, going to Africa where there was a different heartbeat, and I don't know if you've been like in the middle of the,
Not yet. That's my last
oh,
continent that I need to go to.
yeah, I really enjoyed that. I went to Australia for Sports Illustrated. I went to Africa for Sports Illustrated. And so, yeah, those were really great. I mean, Rome and Paris were great also, but I'm a outdoors girl. And
Right.
so for me, being in Africa and just seeing nature at its raw, I mean, it's just raw. If the animal hurts its leg, it's dead within that night. You're not going to go bandage the animal up. You're going to let nature take its course. So it's very real.
I went to Antarctica in February
Oh,
on a 10-day cruise, and kind of like what you were saying, super spectacular, unlike anything I've ever done before, just to see nature at its finest and its rawest. I mean, the air, I have allergies, and down there, I was breathing clear. I mean, because everything's
oh,
dead down there. There's like nothing's living basically. But all the thousands of penguins and the sea lions and the whales and the scenery. Every morning you'd get up, it was just so spectacular. The glaciers, the icebergs, it was just incredible. So if you're looking for more rawness and more beauty, try that.
yes, yes, definitely. And I'll tell you, I think your allergies, sometimes they can be fixed by strengthening your immune system. I found this little cream and it's literally essential oils. And I just rub it on the bottom of my feet every night. And normally April for me here in Scottsdale is really bad. I had nothing, not one allergy. I didn't need to take an allergy pill, and I don't like taking pills. I don't like, so anything that's natural. And I found this so strengthening your immune system, I think, is super important.
Yeah, I'm definitely working on that too. I'm gluten intolerant, and I have some other stuff. And I actually moved 6 months ago because the house I was living in here in Scottsdale had mold.
Oh,
I was diagnosed with mold, and that's how I found out. And
oh,
that's a whole nother,
yeah. See, that whacks your immune system right there. So you got to build that up.
yeah.
To build that back up.
Absolutely. So, what would you today tell your younger self?
Enjoy being thinner. I got older, I got a little bit bigger. And so for me, it was like, why didn't you enjoy that when you had it? I was always feeling like I should do more, or I wasn't good enough. And so I think when we're young, we should just really enjoy the moment more instead of, ooh, well, I should this, and oh, I'm not perfect here. And I mean, it was part of the business that we were in because they loved picking apart what was wrong with you. And I don't know other businesses that do that, but we got thick skins, and those words would end up rolling off my back. I had to learn to not accept hurtful words from other people.
Right, right. That's true. I think,
Yeah.
especially in today's world with social media, it's amazing to me how strange people can just tear apart someone they don't even know. I don't
Yeah.
never understand that. What are some of your future goals and aspirations?
Well, continue working, of course. I'm not sure how much time I'm giving to this grandchild yet because I'm not a grandmother, but they're in Florida, so I'm gonna have to do a lot of traveling. So that will determine some of it. But just to be back out there, sometimes I see other people doing commercials and I'm like, I want to do that again, or I want to be in a show, or so I would love to have my own TV show again. I think we can always resurrect and reinvent ourselves. And so I'm working towards that goal, really.
How do you hope to be remembered?
As someone who was kind and compassionate and giving to others, I'm a big believer in serving others and putting them before yourself. So that's a big thing for me.
And my last and final question is, why do you think, or what's your definition of age is irrelevant?
Um, that you can live long and not have the traditional aches, pains, and diseases that other people get, and stay active and vibrant and current and relevant.
That's true. And I think also too, for me, and I'm sure for you too, that community is really, really big,
Yes.
especially for women, right? Because
Yes.
a lot of women, we were talking about this earlier, get stuck, 50. I mean, I find 50 as like the big transition where you become an empty nester, possibly. You're going through a change of life. You're possibly changing a relationship status. And, you kind of feel lost. And then people, get stuck because they don't know where to go. And then they
Yeah.
just to a rut. So,
Well, and that's why the trilogy communities are good because they really, so some widows will move in there and they're like, I was sitting in this big house by myself. My kids are all gone. What am I going to do? So they sell the big, huge house, even if it makes the kids mad, and they move into an active community where they're valued and people know their first name and they can go work out together and just stay busy as part of a community. So it's very important.
that's great. Where can people find you as far as, I know you have a website, but you can give us the website and your social media.
Well, KimAlexis.com, and at the bottom of the page is a link to all the social medias, but Instagram is _Kim Alexis, and the rest are the Kim Alexis.
Well, Kim, it's been awesome. I'm just so thrilled that you took time out of your busy schedule to talk to me. You're incredibly inspirational and motivational. I'm thrilled to see that you're still being active in the community and sharing your life and helping making other lives, better along the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You do the same.
I shall. All right. Take care. Thanks so much.
Yes, thanks.
Bye.
I sure hope you enjoyed our conversation. Here are some afterthoughts and takeaways about the episode. Number 1, true beauty starts with health. Kim emphasizes that beauty is deeply rooted in physical and mental wellness, advocating for clean eating, regular exercise, and a positive mindset as the foundation of lasting beauty. Number 2, empowerment through self-acceptance. She encourages women to embrace their uniqueness and redefine beauty on their own terms, moving beyond superficial standards set by the fashion industry. Number 3, confidence comes from within. Kim shares how her inner confidence and self-worth shaped her modeling career and how women today can cultivate that same strength in their personal and professional lives. Number 4, the power of giving back. Beyond the runway, Kim talks about the importance of community involvement and using your platform to make a difference, highlighting her work in the health advocacy and charity. Number 5, timeless lessons from the 80s. Reflecting on her era, Kim offers insights into the resilience, discipline, and authenticity that helped her succeed, and how those same principles can empower women today. Now, if you'd like to reach out to Kim, you can find her at kimalexis.com, and she's also on social media, and give her a follow at _Kim Alexis. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can follow me at ageisirrelevant.com or Helen at ageisirrelevant. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this podcast. And if you like this podcast, please check out my other podcasts. There's another 111 episodes that are filled with motivation, inspiration, and transformation. And as always, age truly is irrelevant. Take care. Bye-bye.